Good morning. Before I tear out the door, I thought I would make some sweet potato biscuits. I have a really old cookbook. I think I bought it in the 70s. I love this. I think I bought this book more because of the way the woman writes. It is A Family Harvest by J. Moss Snow. And you can see how old it is. I don't use all the recipes, but she just has such great stories. It's her family's New England cookbook, and she traced people down. So this morning, I made sweet potatoes last night for dinner, and I have leftover sweet potatoes. So I thought I'd make some sweet potato biscuits. So you need a half a cup of sweet potatoes. I probably have a little more. So I'm making sort of a batch and a half. My oven is preheating to 425. These are rolled out biscuits, which I don't make a lot of rolled out biscuits, but thought I'd give it a shot. So anyway, you have to mash your sweet potatoes. And this is like a really old-fashioned masher. And then you're going to add 2/3 of a cup of milk, and you can use whatever milk you want. I am using non-dairy oat milk. And this is Trader Joe's, but use what you have. If you have a cow, go milk the cow. I'm going to throw that in there. And I had a brainstorm. These aren't a real sweet biscuit. There's only 2 tablespoons of sugar in the whole recipe. I'm going to add a little bit of maple syrup. How New England is that, right? Even though it's Ohio. So let me get that. I usually have this on my oatmeal, but I'm only going to add, measuring, right? Not. Just enough to give it some taste. So that's probably 1/8 of a cup. Like a coffee scoop. What is that, 2 tablespoons? So mix that up while you're mashing. Oh, that smells delicious. Then you need 1.5 cups of flour. I'm going to do 2 cups of flour because I have a lot of liquid. And this is all-purpose, regular flour. Ooh, maybe to make it healthy, I'll add some oat bran. You have to sneak stuff in where you can. So there's 1. And then I'm going to do another 1/2 cup. Let me get the oat bran. You really got to be sneaky if you're cooking, just because if I asked my husband, would you like oat bran this morning? He would go, what are you, crazy? No, I want bacon and eggs. But I'll bet he would eat a biscuit. Oat bran in. And this recipe, because it's old, and this book was written before there were food processors in everybody's kitchen, I'm doing this in a food processor because it was time to cut everything in with a little knife. No. And to this, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar, and I'm using raw sugar. So these might be a little bit sweeter between the maple syrup. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so there's 2 tablespoons of sugar. I also need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm doing a very scant teaspoon. I'm not so big on the salt. Do you really need it in biscuits? I don't think so. There. And then I think I need 2 tablespoons. Woo, good thing I looked. 2 tablespoons of baking powder. And I use non-aluminum baking powder. I'm allergic to aluminum. How weird is that? I just look like I have poison ivy if I eat aluminum, or it touches my skin. So we just shy away from that. Okay. And I'm going to put in another like 1/2 teaspoon. Yeah, that's about 1/2 teaspoon because I've increased everything. So now I'm going to just to mix it up. And then it calls for 1/2 cup of shortening. Of course, I have lard, but it's grass-fed, Happy Pig. I get it from Provision Meats in Cleveland, and that's what we have. So I'm going to cut that in. Let me get a spatula. So let me get that in. And this is like making pie dough. And I already did a video on pie dough, so you know how that goes. Okay. And this, you want your shortening to be really cold, and this was kind of really cold in the freezer cold. So it might have a little bit of trouble breaking down. That looks pretty good. All right, now here's my liquid. I'm gonna get all of it. I don't think there's anything else I really need to add. You need 2/3 cup of milk. I'm wondering if I should add a little more. I'm going to put like 1/8 cup more because I'm looking at the flour to wetness ratio. And just put that up. All right. I'm going to do this in the food processor. Probably, we'll see if I made the right choice or not. I'm not very food processor savvy. Maybe I'll get there, I don't know. But I'm kind of in a hurry today because it is the spring equinox. I should be cooking something with eggs or hot cross buns. But I'm doing sweet potato biscuits. Well, I'll be darned. It came together as a ball. Not really. It came together as a wet mess. But I don't want to add any more flour because I don't want tough biscuits. So I'm going to clean this off, get my rolling pin out, and I'll be back to roll everything out and get my biscuit cutter out. So I will be right back. Okay, we're back. So I dumped it out of my food processor and I patted it out. And you want it about 1/2 inch thick. I don't like super thick biscuits, but that's almost 1 inch thick. This is a really light, tender dough, so I feel like the less I handle it, the better. Maybe that will do it. This is my little biscuit cutter. It was my mom's. So it's pretty old. And I just have a cookie sheet with parchment paper on it. And my oven just went off, so it is hot. And I'm flouring my biscuit cutter a little bit, just because I don't want it to stick. But you can see how wet this dough is. So I probably didn't need to add any more moisture when I added a little more oat milk, but I don't know, we'll see. And these cook pretty fast. I like biscuits because they cook fast. It's not like making bread, although today's baking day, and I'm getting ready for the mom box, so get ready. So I made Bailey's chocolate chip cookies last night, so those are going in the mom box. Let me pull that apart. So I was hoping if I get a dozen out of this recipe, I'd be having a good day. We'll see. But because it's the equinox, I really am anxious to get outside. I have some transplanting to do, and I've got some seeds to start. It is on, game on. Once the equinox hits, this is the quickest, the earliest we've had the equinox in 125 years. So it's kind of cool. Ooh, I might get more than a dozen. That never happens. All right. So I have a dozen, and then I have all this leftover stuff. And all I'm doing is pushing it together. I'm literally patting it together because I just don't want a lot of flour. Flour is what makes things tough. And I'm going to move my biscuits closer together so they touch on my cookie sheet. I wonder if I'd have done these in a cast iron pan. I'll bet that would have been good. Ugh. This is kind of how it is in the studio too. About halfway through the project, I'm like, oh, gardening's like that too. Oh, those are kind of falling apart. I don't know. Those may be dog cookies. Let me roll it out. We'll see how that helps it to come together a little bit. Or do they call that the cook's biscuit? I don't know. But this does stick, even with flouring my ring, it's still sticking. So this is a sticky dough. But this, she doesn't say how old this is, but I think this is a pretty old recipe. All right. I'm going to pop these in the oven, and they're going to cook for 15 minutes. So we'll see what I get in 15 minutes. Well, it's been 15 minutes, so I got my sweet potato things out of the oven, my little muffins. They didn't raise like I thought they would, so they're pretty flat, but they are not hockey pucks. So here's a dish of what they look like. I really think these are delicious. They are so flaky and tender. Like you pull them apart. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I wish I would have made these into a drop biscuit. I think they would have been better as a drop biscuit. I think in the future, I'm making a few notations in the recipe book. I will add more flour. I think I'd still make them in the food processor because everything is incorporated so nicely. Maybe not processed quite so long, maybe pulse. But these are worth a try because, you know, we're all under quarantine right now. Some of us are self-quarantining because we're considered elderly. I'm not. I will play with this recipe. This is a keeper. I'm going to list it below. If anybody plays with it, let me know what you think and if you like it or not. The taste is, I think they have a natural sweetness from the sweet potatoes, and I didn't use yams. I used sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are way more nutritious. Look it up online. You'll be shocked as I was. So I always try to buy sweet potatoes. I almost never buy yams, ever. They just don't have the nutritional value that I'm looking for. So anyway, give these a shot. And since we're all stuck at home, why not? You can get a whole bag of sweet potatoes pretty cheap. And I think this is really a good way to go. If you don't have lard, use butter, use shortening, use whatever you have. Leftover bacon fat is what we used to use. So you can use that. We don't need bacon anymore. But anyway, these do get a thumbs up with tweaking. And I will definitely try them again. So everybody, stay home and bake. Bake, cook, do whatever you got to do. I'm going out to put seeds in the ground. Happy equinox. We are into the light now, boy. Things are going to start moving. So everybody have a great day. Bye.